Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Fireside Tales, episode 74. First thing I see as I glance down at the chat is a question from Zachary White. Zachary wants to know, I have a question. If I wanted to listen to each part of this story Hunter is currently doing on his podcast, he mentions periodically. So, of course, you can always go to Hunter's Acoustic Cabin and just replay the entire episode with all the conversation, all the poetry, all of the interaction with the chat. You can also go for an edited version of just the story. You can go to GWC Productions. This is where my producer, Michelle Hoover, edits them down into single bite episodes. The YouTube channel at GWC Productions is usually, a month or two behind the actual live. I think she is just posting the last of Winnie the Pooh, if I'm not mistaken, currently. So these have not begun to be posted over there. So there's a delay, but they're very streamlined. And also at GWC Productions, on that YouTube channel, you will see more poetry and maybe a few more Ask Hunter Anything type questions than you'll see here, because for those podcasts that go out to the cable access shows, for example, Michelle edits out any of my conversation with live folks in the chat, things that would not make sense to people that are just tuning in, like this conversation right now. Perfect example. And like the one that's about to follow as I jump up into the chat and see who is here. Angelica Bolschweiler was the first one in. Hello, Angelica. Cool, Zach. Glad to know you're on the edge of your seat waiting for part 4. Hello, darling Christina. Hey, Brandon over at Art Heart Studios. Dari is here. Meg Sampson, hi. Kelsey Blaine Gibson. Nick Davila. Christy Davila. Hello, both. Yeah, this is episode 74 indeed. That would be LXXIV. Rhonda Soto. Greetings and salutations. And my mom, Pam, is here. Mom's saying, yes, Winnie the Pooh, part 5, was just posted last night on GWC Productions. Were there 5 parts? One of them didn't make it onto GWC. One of the parts that I recorded, we had a file that didn't make it over. So there will be I think there will be 8 Winnie the Pooh stories on GWC, whereas I recorded 10 and sent out 10 live here. Amanda Benjamin, hello. Hope David's watching with you. All right, so I'm going to start this evening by telling you about this poet I know. John Dos Passos. The fellow was born in 1896 and he died in 1970. He was an American painter, novelist, essayist, playwright, and poet, all-around artist. He was born in Chicago. Dos Passos graduated from Harvard in 1916. His literary works were published from 1920 to 1970, with one posthumous work in 2007. He traveled widely as a young man. He visited Europe and the Middle East, where he learned about literature, art, and architecture. During World War I, he was an ambulance driver for American volunteer groups in Paris and Italy before joining the U.S. Army Medical Corps. His first novel, published in 1920, but his later USA trilogy, which consists of 3 separately published novels, was ranked by the Modern Library in 1998 as number 23 of the 100 best English language novels of the 20th century. Written in experimental nonlinear form, the trilogy blends. Take that again. Written in experimental nonlinear form, the trilogy blends elements of biography and news reports to paint a landscape of early 20th century American culture. In a 1936 essay titled On John dos Passos and 1919, Jean-Paul Sartre, or Sartre, referred to Dos Passos as the greatest writer of our time. Yeah, I'm a fan of Jean-Paul Sartre. Personally, I think, he would specifically, however, not be invited to my Star Trek poker party, wherein I can invite whomever from history to come hang out and have a conversation, because I think Jean-Paul and I would just depress the hell out of each other. I think Einstein and Sagan and Da Vinci and I would have a very uplifting, enriching, and inspiring time. Hemingway and I would probably get each other down. Jean-Paul Sartre, he and I would definitely get each other way, way down. But to go back to John dos Passos. So, this one is from the book A Pushcart at the Curb, published in 1922, with this uplifting title, To the Memory of Wright McCormick, who tumbled off a mountain in Mexico. My verse is no upholstered chariot, gliding oil smooth on oiled wheels. No swift and shining modern limousine, but a pushcart, rather. A crazy, creaking pushcart, hard to push, round corners, slung on shaky patchwork wheels that jolts and tumbles over the cobblestones. It's very various lading. A lading of Spanish oranges, Smyrna figs, fly-speckled apples. Perhaps of the Hesperides, curious fruits of the Indies, pepper sweet. Stranger, choose and taste. Dolo. Hello, Susan. Hello, Anna. By the way, if you haven't seen the announcement, The next performance cruise has been announced for October the 17th. It is going to be is it going to be another Royal Caribbean, Anna? Is that correct? Message Anna Gianavola if you want to come with us and be in our group. Don't book directly with the cruise. You will be unfixably excluded from our particular group and all the performances and dinner, and it'll just be a terrible mishap. I'm told that has happened before. If you would like to book to go on the cruise with our group on October the 17th, message Anna Gianavola. It's going to be a great time. The last one, I'm still smiling from the last one that we just got back from 2 weeks and 1 day ago. Mel, have not seen Goddess Patina for a while. Greetings and salutations. Happy to see you. This next poem is from the book A Pushcart at the Curb from 1922 by John dos Passos. This is called Winter in Castile. The promiscuous wind wafts idly from the quays, a smell of ships and curious woods and casks, and a sweetness from the gorse on the flower stand, and brushes with his cool, careless cheek the cheeks of those on the street. Mine, an old gnarled man's, the powdered cheeks of the girl who, with faded eyes, stands in the shadow. A sailor's scarred brown cheeks, and a little child's who walks along whispering to her sufficient self, "Oh, promiscuous wind." Hello, Melissa Catano. Hello, Kathy B. Hey, Paul. Versed. Cute. All right. Also, from the book A Pushcart at the Curb, published in 1922 by John dos Passos. This is called Noche Buena. The clattering streets are bright with booths, lighted by balancing candle flames, ranged with figures in painted clay, virgins adoring haloed bambinos, St. Joseph at his joiner's bench, Judean shepherds and their sheep, camels of the eastern kings. Esta noche es noche buena. Nadie piensa a dormir. Streets resound with dancing and chortle of tambourines. Strong rhythm of dancing, drumming of tambourines, flicker through the greenish lamplight of the clattering, cobbled streets, flushed faces of men, women in mantillas, children with dark, wide eyes, teeth flashing as they sing, La Santa Virgin es en parto, a las dos va a esperar. Esta noche es noche buena. Nadie piensa a dormir. Beet-red faces of women whose black mantillas have slipped from their sleek and gleaming hair. Streaming faces of men With click of heels on the paving stones, boys in tunics are dancing, eyes under long black lashes flash as they dance to the drum of tambourines beaten with elbow and palm. A flock of girls comes running, squealing down the street. Boys and girls are dancing, flushed and dripping, dancing to the beat on drums and piping on flutes and jiggle of the long notes of accordions, and the wild tune swirls and sweeps along the frosty streets, leaps above the dark stone houses out among the crackling stars. Esta noche es noche buena. Nadie piensa a dormir. In the street, a ragged boy, too poor to own a tambourine, slips off his shoes and beats them together to the drunken, reeling time, dances on his naked feet. Esta noche es noche buena. Nadie piensa a dormir. Madrid. Wow. Okay. Mom, Pam Ackerman said, I love this poem. I feel that I'm there. That is exactly what I was feeling. It's exactly what I was feeling. I just felt like I was there. Thank you, Meg. Man. Alrighty. I think I'll do one more before we start this evening's section of Unstable Geniuses, Part 4. God, I'm still kind of shaking off feeling like I'm there in Madrid. Wow. All right. From the book, A Pushcart at the Curb, published in 1922 by John dos Passos. This is La Rue du Temps Passé, which translates to the street of times past. Far away where the tall gray houses fade, a lamp blooms dully through the dusk, through the effacing dusk that gently veils the traciered balconies and the wreaths carved above shuttered windows of forgotten houses. Behind one of the crumbled garden walls, a pale woman sits in drooping black and stares with uncomprehending eyes at the thorny, angled twigs that bore, years ago, in the moon-spun dusk, one scarlet rose. In an old high room where the shadows troop on tiptoe across the creaking boards, a shriveled man covers endless sheets, rounding out in his flourishing hand sentence after sentence, loud with dead kings' names. Looking out at the vast gray violet dusk, a pale boy sits in a window, a book wide open on his knees, and fears with cold, choked fear the thronging lives that lurk in the shadows and fill the dusk with menacing steps. Far away, the gas lamp glows dull gold, a vague tulip in the misty night. The clattering drone of a distant tram grows loud and fades with a hum of wires, leaving the street breathless with silence, chill, and the listening houses. Bordeaux. Wow. I mean, what was the line about the Scarlet Rose? Oh my God. Behind one of the crumbled garden walls, a pale woman sits in drooping black and stares with uncomprehending eyes at the thorny, angled twigs that bore years ago in the moon-spun dusk one scarlet rose. Wow. I mean, damn. Wow. That dude could write. Whew. Oh, okay. I'm going to grab another pillow and go on. My back is very tired today. Had a very long day of art modeling today. Was posing for a long pose over the course of a couple of weeks for a bunch of art students' final. And today was the final installment of their final. All right. So, let us recap. So, summation of part 3 of Unstable Geniuses by Neil Ackerman. In part 3, we find that Damien Hyde's Lutheran Strategic Partners hedge fund is actually a Ponzi scheme with a zero cash balance. No money left. Victims of Hyde's conniving and heartless scam are invited by a Phoenix law firm to a meeting where details of a class action lawsuit are explained. To those duped by Mr. Hyde, the news that the most that they can expect to recoup is 20% is revealed and is very disheartening. At the meeting, Vladimir Frisbee is surprised by the arrival of Reverend Jimmy B. Sunshine and his sister, Melba Jean, who are evidently also investors in Hyde's fraudulent enterprise. But an even greater shock is the appearance of Vladimir Frisbee's nephew, Kermit Plaid. Kermit Plaid. Plaid is accompanied by a tall, regal black man wearing a military-style uniform who is none other than Admiral F.U. Ngomo. Thanks to his uncle Vladimir, the distinguished Nigerian admiral is Kermit Plaid's newfound business partner. It becomes apparent that the extent of Damien Hyde's double dealing is without limit. Ponzi scheme aside, Hyde had also formed a sham pharmacy company named Jolly Roger Pharmaceuticals. Under Hyde's direction, Jolly Roger bought the rights to a life-saving medication called 10-hexatin and raised the price per pill from $5 to $700. Orlando Bud plays on Harley Dinkelman's rugby team called the Lions. Orlando has a seriously ill 3-year-old son, Alex, who is the team mascot and wears a lion costume to the games. And Orlando decided to have a matching lion costume made for himself. Unfortunately, little Alex's life is dependent on 10-hexatin, and Damien Hyde's unconscionable increase in the price of the drug leads to the child's untimely death. Soon afterward, Orlando's own life began a rapid downward spiral. Will Damien Hyde's nefarious scheming go answered? Will a strange coalition of Hyde's victims arise and seek both retribution as well as compensation? We shall see in tonight's 4th installment of Unstable Geniuses. I gotta say, I think one of my favorite details of this is the classic, even cliched Nigerian prince scheme. And in this, the Nigerian prince turns out to be an admiral, but an actual Nigerian with a large fortune that he actually needs help transferring. And of all names he could possibly have, it is a made-up sounding name, F.U. Nagomo. There you go. Paul, are you really not familiar with? I can't tell if he's being. Okay, so just a real quick recap of that. The Nigerian prince scheme it's a total scam that really became well known in the early days of spam email. The scam itself predates email and used to be perpetuated by chain letters. So basically it goes like this. Wait, is he joking? He's not joking. I don't know. I'm just going to keep on going. So it basically goes like this. Some random person, frequently claiming to be a Nigerian prince for some reason, contacts you out of the blue and says you seem like a good, upstanding, honorable person. I have $15 million or some just insane amount of money that I need help transferring from my Nigerian bank into an American account. And I would like you to help me because I know you are not going to rip me off. And I would like to deposit the entirety of this 15 million or whatever into your bank account. And then you will transfer that into another bank account for me, and you get to keep 10% or whatever the offer is. All I need from you to do this is your bank account, like your routing number, your account number, maybe your social security number. All right, so there you go. But in this case, Admiral F.U. Nagomo turns out to be an actual Nigerian who really needed help transferring some money. All right. Hello, Emily Thatcher. You're back just in time. I did not know Paul was a professional at messing with scammers. That's new to me. But Paul, I've been meaning to tell you, I've got this bridge that might be a really good investment that we should go in on together. Chapter 16, A Strange Coalition. Mr. Frisbee, sir, thank you so much for referring me to your nephew. He's a fine fellow. You must be very proud of him, sir. Mostly Vladimir said little, nodding his head and looking back and forth between Kermit and the Admiral. And Nagomo began to wonder if Kermit's uncle was mentally challenged. More shushing until Vladimir and company turned to those around them and gestured apologetically. Attorney Cockburn was in the middle of explaining how he would legally eviscerate Damien Hyde in front of a judge and jury. Those in attendance clapped and hurrahed and soon began sounding like a bloodthirsty version of one of Reverend Jimmy B. Sunshine's audiences. The pit bull closed with a promise. Ladies and gentlemen, you can count on me. I pledge to you that I am hands-on. I will personally do whatever I can, both in court and out of court, to make this right. With the meeting over, people surrounded the lawyers and began assaulting them with questions. Meanwhile, Reverend Jimmy B. stood and gathered those around him, Melba Jean, Vlad, Harley, Kermit, and the Admiral, and said in a conspiratorial voice that was half whisper, 10 cents on the dollar just ain't gonna cut it. I say we can do better. I propose that we meet tomorrow at my Sedona estate, Heavenly Hills, and do some serious planning. Everyone nodded in agreement. The meeting at Heavenly Hills began and ended as a gripe session. The members had plenty to get off their chests. Harley Dinkelman brought his friend Orlando Budd and explained about the harm done to the man by Hyde's company, Jolly Roger Pharmaceuticals. Still not saying much, Orlando, wearing his lion outfit, stuck out a front paw and with a sad face signaled a thumbs down. Harley then launched into the plight of his sister, Wilma, almost a widow, and how she had to get a second job as a checker at Albertsons, and how even then she barely made enough money to pay her rent. Reverend Jimmy groused about how his cheap-ass parishioners had only coughed up half of what was needed to get Flying Jesus off the ground, and how that rotten cocksucker Damien Hyde had promised to double his money in a year. Drink in hand, Melba Jean chimed in with a musical lilt to her voice. I'll cut the bastard's dick off and make him buy it back. Vladimir Frisbee marveled at how on-camera Melba Jean was different than off-camera Melba Jean, and that the same could be said about her brother. Vlad then wondered if it was that way for all televangelists once they were relaxing at home and having quaffed 2 very strong Long Island iced teas, as in Melba Jean's case. Harley took a rather large knife from his pocket and offered it to Melba Jean. Here, you can use this. She looked across the table. Their eyes met. Harley had tattoos of every flavor, and he trimmed his beard but once a year. Sex with Lutherans was uninspiring, and Melba Jean wondered if she was ready to try something different. She smiled coyly. He winked and produced a nonverbal sound common among animals getting ready to mate. Next, Admiral Nagomo spoke of his and Kermit's business transaction. The execution had gone perfectly, but only up to a point. Kermit Plaid had not opened a checking account as planned, but had decided that the $15 million should be transferred directly into an annuity he had opened in the Lutheran Strategic Partners hedge fund. Before proceeding with the transfer, Kermit had sought outside advice and had turned to none other than the now infamous Damien Hyde, their common enemy. When I learned that the fund went bust and that all of our money was gone, I contacted your State Department. Nagomo's voice rising in frustration, I offered to release a detachment of our special boat service, what you in America call your Navy SEALs, and then storm the fund's headquarters, but your government was no help. As your president has stated, we are viewed by him as, how you say, an arsehole country. I believe that's shithole country, corrected Reverend Jimmy, a stickler for accuracy. Ah, yes, a shithole country. So sorry. Your president did not look kindly upon such an operation, so... You see, I have taken personal leave, and I and your kind nephew, looking toward Vladimir, are working on this together. Now, gentlemen, have you ever heard of necklacing? It is a common form of extrajudiciary summary execution carried out by putting a gasoline-filled tire around a victim's arms and chest, then lighting it on fire. It will take Damien Hyde approximately 12 minutes to die. Admiral Nagomo's eyes blazed intensely. Consistent with the sensibilities of a Lutheran skinhead, Kermit Plaid swallowed uncomfortably. Vladimir Frisbee said in a quiet voice, "Can't get money out of a dead man." Otherwise, he sat in silence. He was not entirely comfortable having to be the voice of reason in any group that included him as a member. It was an alien sensation. Plus, he was reticent, hoping to avoid any discussion involving lottery tickets and how his fortune went from $6 million to $3 million in the space of 24 hours. Nevertheless, Vladimir Frisbee was beginning to warm to the Admiral and ask while scratching what felt to him like a flea bite, You ain't Hindu, are you?"
"Why, no, Mr. Frisbee. Anglican, actually."
"So, why has it come to be that you speak such good English?"
"Engineering major, Imperial College, London."
No kidding. Where would that be?"
"London."
Yeah, right. Well, I went to the Flagstaff Academy for the socially and academically challenged. It's in Flagstaff."
"Ah, yes. So I gathered. I'm sure it's top-notch."
"Actually, it burned down shortly after I left."
"Oh, so sorry. It must be a great loss for you."
"Well, not so much." Little actual planning was accomplished that first Heavenly Hills meeting, but upon adjournment, all agreed to reconvene in 2 days. Chapter 17. The Competition. Vladimir Frisbee couldn't get over Heavenly Hills. It's a freaking palace. Oh man, what a casino this would make. He began wondering how he could break into the televangelist business. I could do the job, but first I'd have to train myself to keep a straight face, and the cussing, I'd have to do something about all my cussing. But upon reflection, he gave up on the notion, realizing that a major shift in his vocabulary would be a hurdle too high to clear. The second meeting started with a surprise. Reverend Jimmy stood and said, "I agree with Mr. Frisbee. You can't get money out of a dead man." Reclining in a corner, still in lion attire, Orlando Budd growled in protest, then spoke his first words in quite some time. "I vote for that necklace thingy."
Yes, thank you. The man must be taught a lesson. I have the gasoline and the matches, and my friend here,
Admiral Nagomo, nodded in Kermit's direction.
my friend here knows where he can acquire a tire.
Kermit Plaid, while holding a coupon, said tentatively,
20% off at Tom's Tire and Brake Service. Does, anybody know what size he wears? What size tire, I mean?
Anyone could tell by Kermit's body language and faltering voice that he was not entirely sold on the idea. After briefly taking her eyes off Harley Dinkelman, Melba Jean used the same voice she would use while asking to sample a gourmet chocolate and said, "When can I cut his dick off?" Harley nodded approvingly. Vladimir stood. "Now I believe, like y'all, this thieving bastard's gotta pay for what he's done. But without that money he stole, ladies and gentlemen, I ain't got squat. We have to do what we gotta do to get that back. And as to this tire business, well, as far as I'm concerned, we can take that up after I have my cash back in my pocket." A serious Vladimir Frisbee looked to Reverend Jimmy's sister and continued, "And yes, Melba Jean, then you can cut his dick off." Everyone nodded in agreement, and then Kermit Plaid stood and cleared his throat. He held in his hand that morning's edition of the Daily Spew.
I'd like to read a few things that I underlined. Number 1, Damien Hyde's gone missing. Number 2, agents fear that he has fled the country. 3, no trace of the $3.7 billion can be found. And finally, only Hyde has the key to where the money is hidden.
A hush descended upon everyone until Admiral Nagomo broke the silence.
I have not been completely honest with you. I did not come alone. 2 members of my nation's state security service, what you call your FBI, arrived with me. They're traveling on a tourist visa and are secretly working on our behalf. They trailed Mr. Damien Hyde to the Phoenix headquarters of the Jolly Roger Pharmaceutical Company, where he has been in hiding since his hearing in Washington, D.C. Also, Mr. Hyde keeps a private jet in a hangar at the Sky Harbor Airport. My agents have seen to it that we will be notified if he files a flight plan.
Who are these gentlemen, Admiral?
Kermit Plaid asked.
They go by the code names Searchlight and Death Star.
"I, too, have some interesting news," Reverend Jimmy said. "Looks like we might have ourselves a competition. Last night, I got an anonymous phone call. I was invited to join a group of 7 others to pool resources in the hunt for Damien Hyde. No names. Everyone would be referred to by a letter of the alphabet.
I told them that I'd give them my answer later today.
Oh, for Christ's sake, do it, Reverend Jimmy. Vladimir was the first to speak. What we learn from these guys and then what Searchlight and Death Star can give us, well, it's all good.
Who do you think these people are, Reverend?
Asked the Admiral.
Well, big investors is my guess. And I think I recognize the person's voice on the phone.
Who? Shouted everyone at once.
Well, I could be wrong, but I could swear he was Dick Cheney.
Holy mother of God. Damien Hyde is as good as dead. We gotta beat these guys to the punch. Vladimir took the news hard. A dead Mr. Hyde meant no money, and he would be forced to sell his luxury houseboat, the Nostromo II. Though it was based only on speculation that Dick Cheney had made the phone call and had joined in the hunt for the embezzler, Vladimir and friends began referring to their competition as the Cheney Gang. After the meeting ended, Melba Jean rubbed up against Harley and said, "Hey, Stead, it's about time we get things started, don't you think?" 5 minutes later, Harley Dinkelman rode off on his Harley-Davidson Fat Boy with Melba Jean Sunshine clinging to his back. Chapter 18. The Cheney Gang. The Heavenly Hills Seven met again the next day. Harley and Melba Jean sat in the corner, largely ignoring the proceedings. Everyone else was anxious to learn what Reverend Jimmy had to say about their competition. The Reverend cleared his throat.
It's done. He phoned me like he said he would, and I okayed the deal. He named me Mr. H, and I am to call him Mr. A. After that, he merged me on a teleconference. There are 8 of us, A through H. Money is secondary with these guys. They just want to kill him. The vote was 8-0. I voted yes, so as not to be left out on any of the conspiracy. They got private investigators and everything. I'll keep you posted.
Subdued discussion followed. Then Kermit Plaid stood to speak.
Not sure if we're still interested, but thought I'd mention it just in case. Goodyear's running a special on the 195 65 R14 Goodyear Viva 3 all-season radials. $63 with the coupon. You think that would fit him okay?
I don't mean to be difficult, said Orlando, but I think that might be a little snug. And we don't need to buy him the best. Douglas all-season 205/65 R16s would work better and, frankly, for a lot less money.
Harley was pleased. The possibility of necklacing Damien Hyde was helping to bring Orlando out of his shell. Nagomo stood exuding a composed gravitas. It was natural for the man. Vlad thought he was probably a king or a chief or something in a past life. With his deep baritone, the Admiral reported on his agent's progress.
Searchlight got suspicious and followed one of the Jolly Roger employees to a liquor store. The man bought 2 cases of Dom Perignon and had them delivered to the Phoenix Hyatt Regency's penthouse suite. Our man then bribed a staff member to inform him of any strange goings-on. Death Star is continuing to monitor Hyde's Gulfstream G600. No flight plans filed as of yet.
What? Reverend Jimmy jumped to his feet. He's got a Gulfstream G600? That slimy bastard probably bought the plane I had on order.
It might be. Death Star says it's brand new, and it's custom. Top of the line.
The money was one thing, but the thought that Damien Hyde had also quashed his flying Jesus dream was a knife in his heart. And to add to that, the bastard probably used the Lutheran Beats $24 million as a down payment. Upon reflection, he was glad that he, as Mr. H, had voted yes on the issue of Hyde's termination. In fact, in that heated moment, he would have done the job himself if he had been given the chance. When provoked, Reverend Jimmy was not the "vengeance is mine, saith the Lord" kind of Lutheran. At such times, he could go all DIY when it came to retribution. The next day brought new information from the Cheney gang by way of their insider, the Reverend Jimmy B. Sunshine. The gang's private investigators were working hard, but had no solid leads as to Hyde's whereabouts. However, they had turned up details of a personal nature, details that could lead to Damien Hyde's downfall. For one, he loved gorgeous women, and from his well-publicized dating history, he preferred short, large-breasted, and scantily clad women with beautiful faces. And second, few knew that Damien Hyde was a furry, and that he dressed as a great white shark. Plus, there was a large furry convention in Phoenix in 4 days. If Hyde was still in the city, as Searchlight and Death Star suspected, Great White Shark might be injudicious enough to attend. The Cheney gang was betting on it. They planned to be there in force to do a little shark hunting. Reverend Jimmy latched on to the second point. "Okay, boys, this might be our chance." Without thinking, Vladimir opened his mouth. "You meant to say there's psychos that dress up like fucking animals and go to meetings?" After he'd spoken, Vlad grimaced and looked over at Orlando Budd, who stared in Vladimir's direction. Orlando slowly raised his front paw and then extended his middle claw. Vladimir stammered, well, not you, Orlando. I mean, you're normal. Or mostly normal. For 30 minutes, they discussed furries and furry gatherings. The Reverend Googled furry and read to the group the salient points. He then looked up FurCon Phoenix and again read to his partners. Next, he passed his phone around so that those present could look at furry pictures. They adjourned to the theater room and viewed furry videos posted on YouTube. Vladimir Frisbee felt that the clock had been turned back and that he was once again enrolled in the Flagstaff Academy for the sociably and educatably challenged, and was watching films that the teachers used to fill time. Orlando reported that he had a furry friend who had another friend who designed furry costumes, but who also rented outfits. He would call ahead and arrange a visit. All except Vlad said they were okay with the idea. Frisbee mumbled inaudibly and then went along in semi-silence. As the meeting neared a close, Kermit Plaid had one more point to make.
Concerning Hyde's preferences in women, I once worked for an outfit back in Chicago, and one of our employees embezzled a bunch of money. To make a long story short, we caught the guy using a ploy that's called a honeypot. We sent a beautiful woman after him, and he fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Unfortunately, the money slipped through our fingers, but at least we did catch the embezzler. Now, this woman Fits Damien Hyde's sexual preferences perfectly. We're still in touch. We're friends on Facebook. She sends me cards at Christmas, and once even stopped to visit me when I was in prison. Her name is Lydia Bunking. If we call and offer her a percentage, she might be interested. That's what she would have gotten from us, a contingency. It was 5%. If it's okay with you, I'll private message her on Facebook and see how she feels.
Rubbing his chin thoughtfully, Reverend Jimmy added, "Yeah, it's what people do to catch a shark, isn't it? They chum the water first." All agreed. Chapter 19. The Heavenly Hills 7 pick out their costumes. Of course, Orlando Budd already had a costume. It just needed cleaning. The others hemmed and hawed somewhat reluctantly. Vladimir Frisbee chose to become an African warthog.
Very good choice, Mr. Frisbee. In the African savanna, the warthog is much revered. It is similar to the pig, except it resists domestication. The meat is tough as leather, but it is quite tasty when pickled in a brine for several months. It is best when paired with a Cabernet Franc. I myself wanted to be a black mamba, the most venomous snake in all of Africa, but when I tried on the costume, it made me look like a giant turd. So, now I will try on this cobra outfit. It is the only one in my size.
Kermit's choice was made for him by Mother Nature. A green leotard, flippers, and a green Lone Ranger-type mask was all that was needed for him to double as a frog. Dinkelman tried on the gorilla outfit, but it was tight in the waist, so he went with the moose instead. The only caveat, he could not fit his motorcycle helmet over the antlers. Melba Jean, wearing the red fox, looked in the mirror and asked Harley, Does this make me look fat?"
No, not at all, but I think you'd look better in the little lamb.
Reverend Jimmy had no luck. They were out of owls, peace doves, and eagles, so he had to settle for beaver, which he found degrading and not likely to inspire leadership, let alone donations. They'd taken the Evangelical Lutheran Beats luxury bus to the Furry Rental Emporium, and after 6 hours, returned to Heavenly Hills with their costumes on hangers. When the meeting reconvened, they talked details, made reservations at a Phoenix Holiday Inn Express, and had Nagomo arrange for Searchlight and Death Star to meet them there. Kermit Plaid reported on his communications with Lydia Bunking. She sounded interested, especially when he told her that her payout could be 5% of millions. She would have to fly directly to Phoenix and bring with her certain necessary equipment, namely a sexy bunny outfit, one that did not cover her face. He was not entirely surprised when she chimed eagerly, "Oh, good. I have 2 hanging in my closet right now." The following day, they left Flagstaff at noon and checked into their motel 2.5 hours later. Searchlight was waiting for them. Death Star remained on a stakeout across the street from Jolly Roger Pharmaceuticals. The good news? Lydia Bunking was on board. She was to fly in that evening. Searchlight and Kermit were to meet her at the airport and drive her back to the motel. Since Melba Jean elected to stay in Harley's room, Lydia was to bunk in Melba Jean's. The Heavenly Hills 7+1 met the next morning to go over assignments. Reverend Jimmy brought hidden mics for everyone. He used them on the Evangelical Lutheran Beat Show. Ushers would feed him information which he'd use to astound the audience. For instance, if before the show an usher overheard that it was someone's birthday, the usher would pump the person for details, unaware that Reverend Jimmy was secretly listening. During the program, Jimmy would pretend to be seized by a revelation, close his eyes, bring hands to his head, and say, "I'm sensing that it's someone's special day. Is there a Mary Smith or some such in the audience today? Is it your birthday, dear? Well, stand up. Let's all wish the lovely lady a happy birthday." Once everyone was fitted with their special mics, they practiced for an hour.
Warthog, this is Frog. Where are you?
"I'm right next to you, numbnuts. What the hell's the matter with you?" It took Vladimir a little longer to catch on than it did the others. Chapter 20. FurCon Phoenix, Day 1. The convention was to run Friday through Sunday, with Saturday, the big day, costume contests, talent show, dance-off. The Evangelical Lutheran Beat Bus pulled up early Friday morning. Meanwhile, Death Star was to surveil the Hyatt, and Searchlight was to watch the Jolly Roger building, with both to report any odd comings and goings. For instance, a shark climbing into a taxi. The Heavenly Hills bunch had purchased their FurCon tickets online. Once inside the building, hands, paws, hooves, etc. were stamped. All but Frog entered the actual convention portion of the center. Kermit Plaid's assignment was to sit in the lobby by the entrance and keep an eye peeled for sharks. He eventually settled in the lobby where he could watch the double doors leading into the big hall and also spy on the front entrance as the vehicles drove up to drop off attendees. Frog took delight in the happy furries. Some were singing, others were dancing, while still others were miming. A black Mercedes drove up and dropped off 3 characters in dark suits. Kermit did a double take.
Uncle Warthog, this is Frog. Cosmo Cockburn is in the building. I repeat, Cockburn is in the building.
Frog's warning evidently did not cause much alarm, because all that Kermit heard in his earpiece was muffled snickering. "Frog, this is Warthog. I repeat, this is Warthog." Kermit waited for his uncle's message, but what followed was a fart sound.
Very funny, Uncle Warthog.
I love that. I love that his code name is Warthog and he still calls him Uncle Warthog. Once in the building, attorney Cosmo Cockburn and his 2 buddies turns patrolling the lobby. They stayed the rest of the day. Obviously, they were on the lookout for the defendant in their class action lawsuit, a defendant who would bring a payday worth millions. An hour later, there was a great stirring amongst the furries. Apparently, a rumor was spreading. Supposedly, a well-known race-baiting cable news pundit had suffered a stroke. A group of furries formed a conga line and began singing, 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want him anymore. 5, 6, 7, 8, please do not resuscitate. Over and over. The spectacle momentarily derailed Warthog's train of thought. Recalling Nagomo's words that warthogs were revered animals, he had dismissed the part about tasting good, Vladimir felt that he had a lot to live up to. He took a hold of himself, then continued his quest. Frisbee seemed to be the only warthog in the place, but that did not deter the intrepid sojourner, and he continued to explore the different rooms which branched off from the main hall. Hey, everybody. Yeah, this is Warthog. Does anybody know what a yiffer is? A yiffer with a Y. I'm about to go in a room that says yiffers only, must be 18 to enter. Evidently no one was familiar with the term, so the Warthog entered the darkened room. My God, I hope they serve beer in here. It took a while for his eyes to adjust to the dark. As he stumbled around, hoping to run into a keg, he bumped into a leg attached to what he estimated to be a 200-pound panda humping a 100-pound squirrel. Soon he observed several other cross-species sex acts, and because of his quick mind and careful sleuthing, he interpreted the word yiffer on his own and then shared the information with the others. It occurred to him that if he were to run across Damien Hyde, it would more than likely be in this room, so the stealthy Warthog pressed on. Shortly after, Vladimir was propositioned by a lipstick-wearing pig. However, remaining true to his mission, he waved off the alluring porker and continued his search for the beer. By 3 p.m, I'm just thinking of Michelle having to edit that. Sorry, Michelle. Oh, dear. By 3 p.m, Kermit was getting sleepy, and more than once he had briefly nodded off. Just after waking with a start, a black van pulled up out front. The van was handicap equipped. Soon, the side door slid open and revealed what Frog took to be a badger, sitting in an expensive wheelchair. A wheelchair which had much in common with an electronic version of a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. Rollover bar, metal plating, large wheels, and with all the bells and whistles imaginable. Once lowered to street level, the Badger zipped past Kermit in a blur. He must be going 10 miles an hour, the Frog thought while shaking his head. That bastard's gonna run somebody over at that speed. As long as the Badger remained within earshot, he kept up with a malevolent grumble, and Kermit heard the man shout several times, "Get out of my way, you freaks!" On the bus ride back to the Holiday Inn Express, all seemed to be exhausted, but few complained. With one exception, they said it was an enjoyable experience and looked forward to Saturday and Sunday. Unfortunately, Searchlight and Death Star had nothing to report, and Vladimir Frisbee, despite his persistence, had found no beer. Chapter 21. FurCon Phoenix, Day 2. On Saturday, Frog was given the same assignment of lookout. But this time, he decided to join in and assumed the role of greeter. All but a few of the returning furries seemed happy to see him. They danced, they sang, they frolicked, and Kermit danced, sang, and frolicked right along with them. However, wearing swim fins instead of shoes limited his dancing to awkward movements involving only body parts above the knees. Even though Kermit's gyrations put one in mind of a green penguin struggling to free its feet having frozen to the ice, it did not matter. They accepted Frog as one of their own, and he was happy for it. Like a hungry bloodhound after a pork chop, Vladimir the Warthog Frisbee resumed his hunt for the beer wagon. But in case his mission ended in failure, he brought a small bottle of Jack, just to be on the safe side. Cheers, Vlad. Harley and Melba Jean arrived 1 hour late. They had to take an Uber, which did not have enough headroom to accommodate Harley's antlers, and despite the driver's obvious distress, they sang Los del Rios Macarena all the way to the convention hall. Admiral Nagomo struck an imposing figure with his many naval service medals pinned on his Cobra outfit. There were other Cobras at the convention, but none quite so dignified and regal as he. Kermit was proud to call him
Friend.
because a large amount of money was on the table for Lydia Bunking, more money than she could possibly count in a day. She constantly prowled for the shark. Using her sexy bunny costume as bait, Damien Hyde was her multi-million-dollar target. Cockburn did not make an appearance on Saturday, but his two buddies did. Once again, both men surveilled the lobby, but attempting to blend in while wearing suits and ties caused them to stand out like two wolves in the middle of a flock of sheep. Plus, not one time did they dance, sing, or frolic when they were invited to do so by engaging furries. At precisely the same time as the day before, the handicapped van pulled up out front and discharged its bad-tempered cargo. In the intervening 24 hours, the malevolent badger had had a horn installed on his deluxe wheelchair, and after buzzing past Frog, he began repeatedly honking it, causing furries to either make way or be run over. 2 sharks were spotted that day, a hammerhead and a mako. The mako's entrance caused quite a stir. She hadn't even made it past the lobby when Cockburn's 2 henchmen wrestled her to the ground. The mako screamed, "Help me! Help me! I'm being molested!" The police were called and the perpetrators were hauled away. There was no sign of Damien Hyde that second day of FurCon Phoenix. The Heavenly Hills bunch were discouraged, but were willing to give it one more go. Also, there was no sign of the Cheney gang, even though Reverend Jimmy had told them that they could expect their competition to be present and in full force. Death Star had some good news. Hyde's Gulfstream G600 had been impounded by the feds, and a hopeful Reverend Jimmy exclaimed, "Great, now maybe I can get it on the cheap when it goes up for auction." The possibility that Flying Jesus might get off the ground after all took some of the sting out of the fact that despite his exceptional recitation of Rudyard Kipling's poem Gunga Din during the afternoon talent show, Reverend Jimmy B. Sunshine did not even place in the competition. He was even beaten out by his sisters and Harley Dinkelman's duet. They sang that obnoxious Macarena song while swinging their hips and moving their arms in coordination. He had to admit, they looked as if they had practiced. Orlando the Lion Bud took a deep bow when he got a standing ovation for the magic tricks he performed with the assistance of a lioness whom he had met the day before. Even Nagomo got into the swing of things by singing Frank Sinatra's "I Did It My Way" in his deep baritone. Vladimir missed the performances. He had found the beer wagon and was seeing to it that nothing went to waste. That does it for this week's installment. Tune in next week for part 5 as we see what happens. take a glance back through the chats. As always, if you're feeling so generous, please drop something in the virtual tip jar. And if money is a thing, be nice to a random stranger in the chat. We'll accept that. Happy to have you here. Scrolling. Yeah, I'm 40 minutes back, but yes, I could really use a massage therapist. You know, one that doesn't have COVID and preferably works outdoors. And yeah, well, anyway. There's Paul Carganilla trolling about not being familiar with the Nigerian prince scheme. Right. Okay. Lily just nosed my face. That's adorable. I would love to read some of the conversations, the transcripts of conversations Paul has had with scammers that are epic. A televangelist is just a religious fundamentalist that you see on TV of whatever denomination. Yes, an evangelical on TV. Pretty much. You got it.
Thank you. I'm actually not trying to do an exact spot on Kermit the Frog, but someone who sounds very similar.
Yeah, I could do closer. It's a character choice. Hello, Ruth Sanchez. Gay squirrel. Yes, Kathy B, there are gay squirrels all over. Those of you that were on the cruise with us 2 weeks ago know exactly what that is. Those of you who are going on the next cruise in October, I'm sure will hear way too much about it. Hello, Craig Jackman. Just in time for the beer wagon, indeed. All right. Yeah, I know, Zach. Always leave them wanting more, right? Rhonda Soto, you are very welcome for the marvelous bedtime story. Yeah, I know what you mean, Paul. The malevolent humans out there in the world, those that you love to hate. I don't know if the gay squirrel is going to be on the ship in October. I didn't know the gay squirrel was going to be on the ship 2 weeks ago. No one knows. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition, just as no one expects the gay squirrel. Join us for Lovecast 103 this coming Thursday at 6 o'clock. And the following week is the 2-year anniversary of the Lovecast. And I will have a special guest, my buddy, singer, songwriter, guitar player extraordinaire, Brett Davis, is going to be joining me at the 2-year anniversary in a week and a half. Of course, join us for Amanda on Demanda on the Vaudacity Network on this coming Wednesday. And whose turn is it tomorrow? Is Dari going? Do we have Dancing with Dari tomorrow? Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Tuesday is the Panano Man. Okay, thank you. This Tuesday is David Benjamin. You're very welcome, Zach. Christy Davila, enjoy your vacation. And hope to see you in person soon. As always, drop some questions into the email here to my left. AskHunterAnything@gmail.com. I'm actually acquiring a little bit of a backlog of good questions. I keep running out of time. I'm going to catch up on a bunch of those probably next week. And for now, I will sign off. Say I love you all. Keep reading.